It's been a season of ups and downs for our typical title contenders. But when the dust settled at the halfway point of the season, it's Bobby Fong who stands on top with his privateer Yamaha. But only 2 races to go until the summer break, and only 9 points separating the top 4. It's anyone's guess who will leave Central California with the championship lead. So it's time to fire up 230 horsepower fire-breathing Superbikes racing at one of the most famous racetracks in the world. It's time to get after it right now. The 10th anniversary of the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship. This round is MotoAmerica Superbike Speed Fest at Monterey, our 6th round of 9 for 2024 from WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca in Monterey, California. And that guy right there, Bobby Fong, leads this championship by a single point. Josh Herrin also in the mix. And boy, we have a fast field of riders. And lap records, track records were broken in qualifying for Steel Commander Superbike race number 1 as we prepare for our pre-race experience. Jason Pridmore with me. Let's take a look at these standings straight away. If you look at it, Jason, 158 points to 157. Jake Gagne with 1 win and 5 podiums. Cam Peterson right there, and Josh Herrin as well. I can't remember a more competitive season this way. This point of the season will only be 9 points. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the broadcast booth. I'm Greg White, standing alongside 2-time national champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, it has been an unbelievable season. We thought it was going to be on paper, but it is turning out to be a banger.
That's great. Who's got momentum? I mean, it just switches every single weekend, and now you're at Laguna Seca, a place where every rider circles at the beginning of the year. We can hardly wait to get back here. We got perfect weather, and like you said, lap records were broken this morning, so looking for 2 really good fights here this weekend.
And Jay, let's talk about how competitive this season is as compared to the seasons past year in MotoAmerica in the 10 years. So you can see in 2023 last year, in 20 races, Jay, we've had 10 different riders stand on the podium and 5 different race winners. We're only 11 into 24. We've already had 9 different podium standers and 5 winners. And if you look back, Jay, our 5th most competitive was, you know, back there in 2020 with 8 different podiums and only 3 race winners. So, Jay, let's talk about this because we know that who has won so far of the 5. However, who else do we have you think can win a race?
Well, this guy proved last year he's still willing to win races. JD Beach makes a full-time welcome return back to MotoAmerica on that Tytler's BMW. And you just got to think at some point it is going to click for him, as well as this guy, Loris Baz. Last 2 years we've seen him in World Superbike on the Bonovo BMW. He was on the Ducati here with us 3 years ago. Another guy set pole at Brainerd. And how about this guy? Comes back from Moto2. Sean Dillon Kelly, would love to say it surprised me. This guy knows how to ride a motorcycle. He's back fast again this weekend. And let's not forget Chavi Flores on that Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki, who also, Greg, has a very, very fast teammate in Brandon Posh, who's done a tremendous job this weekend qualifying in 6th place.
So many things have to happen, but it's going to be good. But the 3rd member of our broadcast team, Hannah Lopez, under the sunshine and the wind here at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca.
Starting from pole position, Cameron Beaubier. It's only his 2nd round back after a big crash took him out for a round. Cam, how are you feeling so far this weekend?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. You know, yesterday was it's really good for my head, just knowing I could, you know, ride like myself after dealing with my heel the past month. But yeah, just gonna give it everything we got these next 2 days, Saturday, Sunday. There's a lot of fast guys right now. You know, Josh is riding really good. Sean, the Attack Boys. It's stacked this year, so yeah, we're gonna do the best we can and see how we end up. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Fastest so far this weekend, that right heel he mentioned. He's got some new hardware in it, but he's walking around without a cane, and it's certainly not slowing him down on the motorcycle. Moving on across the grid, Sean Dillon Kelly starting from the 2nd position. Sean, a really tough round last round, kind of had you on the back foot. How did you guys refine that pace here this weekend?
Yeah, no, I think we've been climbing back up the last couple weekends, and I think we're showing that all the work that we've been putting in is definitely in the right direction. So feeling really strong, happy to be back up in the front row and ready to give these guys a fight.
Best of luck, Sean. Guys.
And he has been super fast, and that team has been working really hard on getting that baseline setting. But it's WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, one of the most famous in the world. Some amazing races since it began all the way back in 1957. Of course, It's got the famous corkscrew at the top of turn number 7 down into 8, and that checkered flag is deep along the straightaway. It's a lot of fun. It's got a lot of elevation, a lot of history. But Jason Pridmore, let's take a look at a more in-depth, detailed look at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca with our Insta 360 track lap.
Yeah, I'd love to get on board here with Brandon Posh as he runs up over the top of turn 1. A very underrated turn, in my opinion, in the world of road racing. You have to be fully committed coming up over the top of that as you brake hard down here into turn 2. Bit of a double apex corner. As he comes out of there, he gets into turns 3 and 4, which are flat. The turn he's in right now, turn 5, is definitely not. This is where you start to make that big climb. This is the tricky turn 6. You come up underneath that bridge, Greg, and this is a very, very steep hill up to one of the most famous places that we know, the corkscrew. As you run down through the corkscrew, underneath that WeatherTech bridge, down into Rainy Corner here, turn number 9. You see Brandon late apexes that just a little bit as he comes down now into turn 10. This whole last section, turn 10, 9 and 10, both with some camber as you come into the last corner. And what a last corner it is. So many things have been decided in this last corner over the 50-plus years here at Laguna Seca. It's a lap with Brandon Posh. Thanks.
Incredible. Bobby Fong, your championship points leader, has 1 point. He lost it after race 1 in the Ridge and got it back. We are 4 minutes away from a race start. What's Fong going to be able to do today?
Continuing coverage here on MotoAmerica Live, plus what's Fong going to be able to do today. But what about Josh Herrin? We talk about momentum, Roger, and he's the one coming off of a win back at the Ridge.
Yeah, and all weekend he's been right there at the top of the board, and he's going to be tough to beat, even though he's starting on that second row. That's not going to be where he wants to start, but we know Josh gets good starts. He's going to be aggressive early, and talk about momentum. He has it. He's won a couple races this year. He's got himself in the championship fight. One thing about Josh Herrin, he's won a lot of titles. Superbike champion, Stock 1000, Supersport. He knows how to win championships. He handles the pressure well that all the other riders he's fighting with for a Superbike title has not been through. And most importantly, he's got the speed. The team's doing great, and he's going to be at the front today.
Josh Herrin will be starting this race from the 4th position. You mentioned it, that second row. Looking at the tire selection, the choices that the riders and the teams have made today, most of the field they're on the same rear tire except for Sean Dylan Kelly, who is starting in the 2nd place. He's on the hardest option. What role will that play over 20 laps?
Well, he should be better toward the end of the race. You know, with the harder tire, you might not have the grip early on in the race, but when the tire falls off, should last a little bit longer, and that's the thing. Beginning of the race, Sean cannot give up very much time with that harder tire. You just got to decide which one is going to be better over the complete race distance.
Our pole sitter, Cameron Bobier, he chose a 3 as a front tire and a 7 as a rear tire. The numbers is what this signifies is how hard the tire is. It goes from 0 to an 8, so you can kind of see that he's in that mid-range. Starting in 2nd, Sean Dylan Kelly, also on a BMW. He chose a 5 for the front and an 8 for the rear, so just overall a harder compound choice on that 2nd place starting BMW of Sean Dylan Kelly. There's so many things still to unfold here. There's a lot of questions still to be answered. It will be a 20-lap race here for Still Commander Superbike race number 1. There is our pole sitter, Cameron Bobier.
Yeah, and Cam's looking good. He's going to be tough to beat today. He needs to win. He still thinks he's in this title fight, and he's going to have to win some races.
He's been able to win 3 times so far. We'll see if he can make it 4. It's time for Still Commander Superbike and Greg and Jason.
Bellissimoto Twins Cup is brought to you by Bellissimoto, where the biggest names in custom bike building shop for parts. And by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series.
Miguel Duhamel, 86 career wins, AMA all-time, out front on Wayne's Ride to the Races, an event that raised a lot of money for charity. I think it's Kevin Schwantz right there in the middle. And there's Heath from Alpine Stars on that cool number 2 bike. All right, let's take a look at the starting grid for Steel Commander Superbike. Race number 1, it's Bobier, Kelly, and Peterson.
And then we're going to have Josh Herrin, Bobby Fong, and Brandon Posh there just outside of row 2. Then JD Beach, Gagne Baz, Chavi Flores, Ashton Yates, and Bryce Prince round out row 4. Ezra Beaubier, Benjamin Smith, Danilo Lewis, Nolan Lampkin. What a great story that is. We'll see if he's actually out there with Andrew Lee next to him and Dion Campbell. Then we got Richard Kerr, Flinders, Arango, and then Giannato back there as well. And Manny Segura is going to be the last one back there, Greg. And this is a super important start here. Laguna is rare in this fact that you go uphill. From the time you release that clutch, you're heading uphill. So it makes the start a little bit more difficult. But let's see if this guy gets a good jump from row 2.
Here we go, race number 1, still Commander Superbike. 20 laps scheduled in this race, and it looks like a jump start for Sean Dylan Kelly. And he knows it, he starts to roll out of it, but we'll see what the stewards do. But down into turn number 2 we go, and it's going to be Cameron Beaubier, number 6, who leads the way on the Tyler Cycles BMW M1000 RR.
Great start for JD Beach, too, as Bobby Fong snuck up underneath him. And you can see Josh Herring slots himself into second, or third rather. So right now I got to be thinking that Herring has probably done some looking and thinking about things. He's not going to want to see Cameron Beaubier get away. But right now Cam Peterson taking that early charge to Cam Beaubier up in the front. Looking further back, STK, Greg, did recover at about 6. So I don't really think he gained very much. It would look like he just released the clutch lever a little early and got it back and then tried to go. So like you said, see what the race stewards have to say about that. Beaubier already up front, trying to stretch this lead.
For Cameron Beaubier, he broke the track record in qualifying. He did a lap time that was incredible, a 122.5. The record was a 122.9 set by Josh Herring back in 2018 when we had Super Pole and a special gumball tire, Jay. And of course, this place was repaved a couple of years ago, and riders showed up here and they were like, whoa, what happened? Where did all the bumps come from? So it hasn't been the greatest experience with the surface here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, but it's still fast enough to break track records all over the place.
STK makes that move on JD Beach. JD looked like he was going to turn it back up underneath him. Tyler's BMW versus Top Pro, and you see Gagne stuck right behind both of them at the moment. So Gagne stuck behind 2 BMWs as JD Beach fights back, gets himself back through on Sean Dylan Kelly, only to see him go back through again. Is that Brandon Posh? Looked like he maybe ran just a little bit wide. Now JD's made himself susceptible to the number 1 of Gagne. So Gagne goes through. This is what this track does, Greg. When a rider in front gets past, you have to attack right away. And just like that, JD just loses a couple spots in the between turns 2 and 4.
Cameron Peterson, Attack Performance Progressive Yamaha, having a good run as of late, keeps getting stronger and stronger physically. We know that during the winter months, it was questionable whether he was going to be able to be as fast as he is this season with the injuries that he had, but he has really poured it on as of late, has the South African Cameron Peterson. There's Sean Dylan Kelly. As we look at SDK lead us down from the corkscrew, let's get to Hannah on Beaubier.
For a 20-lap race, Cameron Beaubier has only done about 8 consecutive laps, and while he is feeling a lot better, he said that right heel is still not 100%. This is his home track, so he's really excited to have the whole family in tow this weekend. They're certainly rooting to see him back on top. He did tell me they tried a swing arm yesterday to find some edge grip, and they went toward last year's settings. The bike punches out of the corners really well, but he's struggling out of those double right-handers. Hard to say if it's the bike or if it's physically his heel.
You know, Hannah, it's funny when you ride with an injury, and especially something like that, you got to remember, Greg, your feet are your base. Your base is what makes any athlete great. You look at soccer players, you look at football players, even a guy standing in the batter's box, they're using their feet as their base, and it doesn't really change that much on a bike. And he learned yesterday how to ride with the heel injury that he's got and be able to still get the lap time he wants. Now, when you sit there and you look at 20 laps around here at Laguna Seca, he is going to continue to evolve and adapt, and you can see what he's doing right now. He's making a little bit of a disappearing act as he goes 23.7 on his first flying lap. 23.7 is extremely fast, and he opens almost half a second gap just in that lap. It was almost a full second, Greg. So what he wants to try to do is try to get himself out front, build up a bit of a cushion, and then as the race wears on, if that heel starts to become a problem, he's got a little bit of a gap there to kind of buffer, if you will. And you can see the number 6 right now. He's been in this position many, many times at Laguna Seca. He knows all the nooks and crannies of the place. Now it's just a matter of putting these 20 laps together and focusing on one thing at a time.
For Cameron Beaubier, he sits 7th in the points, 55 points behind Bobby Fong, who's currently in 4th place on the track. But Jay, I want to point out something as we're now 4 laps into this race. from a standing start, Cameron Beaubier did a lap time that was a 1:25.4. I want to make note that the lap record in Supersport back in 2017, set by this guy Garrett Gerloff, is a 1:25.4.
Yeah.
So on a Superbike from a standing start, that's what happened. Now it looks like we have jump starts from both the 40 and 45.
Wow.
So we have jump starts from both Cam Peterson and SDK. So that, Jason, that's going to send him back 5 seconds. So the position on the racetrack is going to be 5 seconds back. So when you're looking at the left side of your screen on our scoring pylon, if you're looking at Cameron Peterson, who's second on the racetrack currently, what you're going to find is his name is going to drop down the board. And right now he's credited in 7th place, which gives Josh Herron, the number 2, second place on the Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati.
And these are the kind of things that can change what a championship really looks like, can't it? I mean, right now, Cam P, point-wise, you're going to have to remind me, Greg, where Cam Peterson is point-wise behind. We know Herron is 9 back, 3 points back is Cam Peterson, so 13 points rather.
Third in the point, 7 points back.
Yeah, 7 points back. Okay, so for Cam Peterson right now, he's got to keep his head down. I don't know if there's any way that the teams can actually let him know, because if that's a 5-second penalty, he's got to get out 5 seconds from Bobby Fong is what it would be. So
yes,
Herron's
right.
second right now. Bobby Fong is actually third, and Josh Herron's going to make this pass, and he's going to want to try to chase after that leader, Cam Beaubier, now, who's pulled out to over 2 seconds, just over 2 seconds. He's the only rider in the 23s currently is Cam Beaubier. Herron gives Cam Peterson a little wave back to say he's sorry. Cam Peterson's going to return it as they get down into turn 5, or try to. Didn't quite make it.
And of course, if you're new to motorcycle road racing and new to watching Steel Commander Superbike class, no rear view mirrors on this bike, no on-bike communication. So the riders, to get that information Jason was talking about, the only way they're going to get it is when they come onto the front straightaway. Part of their crew will be holding out a pit board that'll give them some information, and we're not sure if they've gone over this scenario or not.
Yeah, now one of the things that I think will catch my eye, if we looked at last time by, next time Cam Beaubier goes through, his team, depending on what they've decided to put on his pit board, it should say +2. As a rider, when you see that number going up, 2.5, 2.8, whatever it might be, once you see that number stop, it's either because you've decided to back it off and control the race, or somebody behind you is going quicker. There you go. P1 plus 2 seconds. So when they come across the line this time, it's 2.1. I think the team will probably keep it at 2 seconds, and Cameron then will have to make the decision of, is that somebody catching me now? This is where Herron can actually apply pressure from behind if he tries to not let that gap get bigger. I know there's still 15 laps to go, but this is where, if Josh Herron's got some lap time underneath him, he needs to push, get that number back under 2 seconds, and get Cam Beaubier thinking about him coming forward.
So for Bobby Fong, who's 4th on the racetrack, but currently 3rd in the race itself, this is a benefit that he had a jump start from Cameron Peterson and from Sean Dillon Kelly. Well, Sean Dillon Kelly's behind him anyway, but it's the Cam Peterson thing. So for Bobby Fong, he's got to keep Cameron Peterson within 5 seconds in order to get ahead of him in the points. Of course, where he's losing points, Bobby Fong's eyes aren't on Cameron Beaubier. They don't need to be in this championship hunt. What Bobby Fong is interested in right now is, where is Jake Gagne? Jake Gagne sitting in 4th place. Where is Cameron Peterson, and where is Josh Herron?
I don't think any of those guys right now, when you're this close in the points, you've almost got to not think about the points. You've got to try to go forward and try to win races and get the most points you can, because it's so close. And this is what we have this year at MotoAmerica that we've never ever had before. We have multiple manufacturers battling for a championship. We've got 5 riders tied within so many points. The thing is, it can change every week. The guy that's got the biggest benefit right now is it stays at 2.1, so Josh Herron has kept that gap at exactly the same number. The guy that's benefiting right now is Cam Beaubier. He's got to continue to get out front, pull away at 55 points back, I believe is what it is. We have a championship this year that other riders can get in between Cam Beaubier and whoever's behind him and tighten this up to where Cam Beaubier can literally leave Laguna Seca within 30 points of the championship still, and that's with missing a round.
Another look at Josh Herron as he squeezed on the gas coming out of turn number 2. A little sideways action for his Warhorse HSBK Ducati on that Panigale V4R. And by the way, Betting is now available for MotoAmerica fans. You can go to nxtbets.com/playma. nxtbets.com/playma. For more information, visit MotoAmerica.com. Down through the corkscrew. As the attack performance, Progressive Yamaha of Cameron Peterson keeping Josh Herrin close in tow as they're coming down to the bottom of the hill. But on the racetrack, you're looking at second and third. But in terms of the actual results, you can see Cameron Peterson, because he's got that 5-second penalty, has now worked his way up to 5th place right now. Hannah?
Talking to Cam Peterson, he told me the bike has been feeling amazing all weekend, but this is such a tricky track. He said it's a bit counterintuitive. The harder he pushes, sometimes the slower he goes. And now with this penalty that's been communicated to him on that pit board, he's going to have to manage the sense of urgency that he has to get around Josh, and also how the tire is going to feel at the end of the race, which is also something that he communicated to me. His strategy will evolve as the tires go off, as these laps wind down.
And Jason, to Hannah's earlier point, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca is infamous for a track that if you attack the corners, you go slower. And it's about what? Letting this come to you. What does that mean?
You gotta get a flow around this place. It is so easy to override at Laguna Seca, and that is speaking from true experience. I did that every year I came to this place. It seemed like I could never really get in a flow, and I think that to your point, Greg, it's important. That's why these laps, all these laps are important. Cam Peterson's gone from 7th so far in this race up to 5th, even though, like you say, he's 3rd on the track itself. This guy right now has opened up another 4/10, so he's now at a 2.5-second lead, is Cam Beaubier, making this look rather easy at the moment. So for Cam Beaubier, this is exactly what he needs, and he's just got to continue to keep his head down. When I look right now, Cam Peterson is 1.1 seconds behind Gagne on time. So that means that he, in 1.1 seconds, as he takes a shot, man, he almost lost the front there. As he turns it back, Herrin's going to turn it back up underneath him and probably beat him at the top of the hill. See if he gets it. Yep, Herrin's going to get to the top of the hill quicker. Cam's going to turn it back up underneath him, try to pass him down into turn 2. He's going to make that pass. Is Herrin going to turn it back up underneath him now? Yes, he is. Now this is just, actually this is killing Cam Peterson.
It is killing him, but Jay, the interesting bit was when Josh Herrin went by the stripe, he motioned to his pit board. I think that he might think, not knowing, when he came by last time, we saw it on his pit board that it said +2, and he might be saying to his pit board, like, what do you mean +2? I got a guy who's racing me up right now. So he may not be aware that Cameron Peterson has been obviously fine. You know, he's got a 5-second penalty. He's racing him up, but in terms of position on the racetrack, all Cam Peterson doing right now is racing for time more than he is for position.
Yeah, and all it's really doing is it's helping the guys behind, and it's helping Cam Beaubier continue to run up at the front. To your point, Josh Herrin's not going to really have a clue that Cam Peterson is behind as Cam gets into the corkscrew extremely fast there at the top. Josh Herrin doesn't know that Peterson's got a time penalty or Sean Dillon Kelly's got a time penalty. So he's trying to race forward, and he's probably asking his crew, what are we talking about? I got 2 seconds. I just got a guy passing me down in turn 11. That's why his crew member was really pointing to that board. As you can see, Cam Peterson here gets the thing sideways. The bike snaps back. And, to us here, it looks close. To him, he had everything under control.
Sure he did,
But now that gap, just that messing around between those guys has created that 3.5-second gap. And Cam Peterson is still, well, he's a second back. JD Beach 6th, Loris Baz 7th. SDK, you'll see him just behind Bobby Fong, but he's actually credited with 8th right now. Then we have the Suzuki's rounding out the top 10 of Xavi Forres and Brandon Posh.
Oh no,
that's Bobby Fong.
Championship points leader in the gravel trap, makes a huge mistake. He was sitting second in the third in this race, and Bobby Fong in the Wrench Motorcycles machine, his Yamaha R1 in the gravel trap, and he's not able to restart.
It's such an easy place to do it, Greg. Turn 3 is so easy to get in there just a little bit too quick. There's a tiny bit of a crown there, as you can see. Bobby obviously frustrated and screaming at himself. You get in there, and if you get in there just a little bit too wide, it's hard to explain, but these guys have such a great feel as far as trail braking goes. He wants to get back on the bike and look at it. We're not going to get a real good shot there, but you get in there and you feel like everything's fine, and then all of a sudden the front just goes from underneath you, and you literally have no chance of saving it because of the flatness of what turn 3 is.
What a shakeup in this championship for Bobby Fong, who had a 1-point lead coming in here over Jake Gagne. And Jake Gagne, who's running back there now, Jay, he's going to be Well, Sean Dillon Kelly has gotten around Gagne, and this is the hardest thing for us as we continue to look at this battle. This is second place is Josh Herrin. Jake Gagne is now up to third place based on time behind Cameron Peterson, his teammate. And this is what the championship points look like if the race ended now. Gagne would have a 4-point lead over Herrin. Peterson 9 back still, and Fong would drop 15 back. What a season we're having in Steel Commander Superbike.
But the guy that's 55 points back just gained 25 points on that leader. If he continues to run the way he is now off in the distance, Bobby Fong has got that wrench motorcycles back out of the dirt in turn 3. He's going to try to get up and try to get any points that he can towards this championship. So if that bike is manageable, he's got 10 laps to try to get himself back up in the top 15. So we'll try to keep you appraised on what's going on there. But right now, this battle for second on track is still between Herrin and Cam Peterson. But what Peterson really needs to do is just lock onto the back of Herrin and keep running away from the guys behind him. As you can see that there's not really anybody back there. Now, Cam Peterson's only 6/10 on time, Greg, at a third spot. So in a minute, if he can gain 6/10 on Gagne, you'll see Cam Peterson will jump up to that third place spot.
And behind them is Sean Dillon Kelly, who's got a 5-second penalty as well. So when they come across the stripe, you can see that Peterson and Kelly go to 4th and 5th. But Gagne, once he crosses the stripe and he's within 5 seconds of these two riders, he jumps himself up into 3rd. And boy, what a story we have with Jake Gagne, your reigning champion, trying to hold on to that #1 plate. But this battle continues to go on between Josh Herrin and Cameron Peterson. Not so much for position on the racetrack, but just for time. And it's good. This is, if Cam Peterson doesn't keep attacking Josh Herrin, I think this is good for him.
Agreed.
Because Herrin continues to set the pace and drags himself further and further away from his competition.
He's only 4/10 now behind Gagne on time. So for Gagne running 3rd, again, I mean, Gagne just kind of keeps, this is the luck that Gagne needs right now because of the conditions that he's dealing with. We're also hearing that Bobby Fong did finally pull off, so he is not going to score any points in this race. But for Gagne, knowing the ailments that he's dealing with his arm at the moment, you know, a top 5 finish is going to be a good result for him.
So for Jake Gagne, he and his family made the decision after talking and team to stay. He knew that he had numbness in his right hand, and they say, do we continue to race until we get to the summer break? After this weekend, we're going to have a month off. He's going to head straight to Wyoming. He's going to get some work done on his wrist, and hopefully he'll have an entire month to heal for Jake Gagne. But it's the fact that he stayed in this championship that's been amazing, and of course it paid off with some crazy results over the last couple of races for Jake Gagne. But the question now is, as we continue to get deeper and deeper into this race, is Gagne going to have the pace to hold on to his position, which at the moment he has just slipped back, Jason, on time to 4th place. So he's 4th. Cameron Peterson has now worked his way up to 3rd, chasing Herrin. So what we see on the racetrack from the top 3, Beaubier 3 seconds ahead of Herrin. Cam Peterson, Gagne's 4th, Sean Dillon Kelly in 5th, and then JD Beach and Loris Baz getting after it. Hannah, what do you know about the 95?
For JD Beach, winning the last race last year gave him really high expectations for himself this season, and it was such a transition being on that BMW with Cam Beaubier as his teammate, no less, the benchmark for this series, essentially, with all of his championships. It's hard to remember that he hasn't raced a Superbike in 4 years, and so he's been really hard on himself. This weekend, he's adjusted his expectations, and he's already having a lot more fun and riding a lot more relaxed.
Yeah, and the thing to remember, too, is just because one rider is unbelievably fast on a motorcycle with the same exact team and a great crew behind him doesn't mean they're going to do the same thing. JD Beach has a much different riding style, different background than Cameron Beaubier. Beaubier definitely likes front-end feel, Jason. He likes to have control of the front end of that motorcycle, where JD Beach likes a more flat setup and likes to be able to control rear. I mean, the guy just spent 4 years in flat track.
Yeah, and that's with the advancement of the electronics, a lot of the guys at dirt track have found it to be a little bit more difficult because the bikes kind of get muzzled a little bit, don't they, Greg? But JD's got enough experience. He's ridden for the attack team before, so he's used to some of that. Baz here, a little surprised to see Loris as far back as he is here. As you see, Beaubier now has built himself up a 4.1 second lead over Josh Herrin. So, yeah, so Beaubier is well sailed off now.
Getting back to Baz, what you were saying real quick, the number 76 is Jay, the last couple rounds, they come out in Q1, or free practice number 1, they're fast right off the bat. And so from that point, they're making refinements. And he said for this particular race weekend on a track that he loves so much, WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna, Seca, they didn't roll it off the truck and it wasn't fast. So they've been kind of chasing setup.
Okay.
And they did something. They tried a little bit of something to go back to, kind of a setup that they're familiar with. And right now, 7th place, not exactly working out for him. As Xavi Forez on the Vision Wheel M4 XR Suzuki back in 8th place behind Baz. They threw the kitchen sink at that bike to try to get it quicker. And of course, 8th place for them.
I feel like there's 2 tracks on our calendar, Laguna Seca and Road Atlanta, where riders always seem to be compromised and set up, and that's JD Beach right there. That looks like turn 10. That's going to be a fast one if that is turn 10. So for JD Beach, we were just talking about him too. And actually, this weekend, JD's looked a lot better on that bike. And this is just a bummer here to see the Tytlers cycle. BMW rider. Yeah, it's going to be a lose the front probably in turn 10 really early too.
That's a fast one.
Yep, that's a fast one.
Look at that bike tumbling.
Yeah, you can see he lost it early. And it's Greg, if you get out just a tiniest bit wide there, there's less camber. If you can get down to the inside there, there's a little bit more camber, but we don't see him make very many mistakes. And just glad to see JD okay.
The other thing, too, is that the Dunlop chose what tires they were going to bring to this event, and based off of the new asphalt from last year, Dunlop chose to bring the harder tires because this track was extremely abrasive. But after a year of wearing in, this track surprisingly created grip, and I think a lot of riders who are on a harder compound tire on the front than they're used to, it's caught a few riders out this weekend. Yeah, no question. So as this continues to go, you can see this guy's still pushing hard. Herron there, Cam Peterson. Now where this becomes interesting to me, you think Attack has told Cam Peterson that he's got that 5-second penalty? Because I hope so.
Well, I don't know.
Because I know what your train of thought is. Does Cameron Peterson risk it all to get by Herron? But yet he's got to get on Herron with 5 laps to go. He's going to have to be 1 second a lap faster. So the question is, do you battle it off? Do you start throwing punches at Josh Herron, or do you just sit here? Yeah, do you put a board out that says stay third? It's confusing, but I would think now that we're far enough along in MotoAmerica that these teams have some way of communicating with their riders through pit boards that will tell them, hey, you jump start, whatever the case is. If there's a way that they have been able to tell Cam Peterson that he is not, in fact, in second, even if he moves up, it might limit that risk. These 3rd place points for Cam Peterson would be huge right now, as with the 2nd place points of Josh Herron. So the way we spell it out is simple. If you look at Cameron Beaubier, he's 4.9 seconds ahead of the number 2, Josh Herron. But Cameron Peterson is 5.2 seconds behind, on time, Josh Herron. So the only way I could see risking is if Cameron Peterson thinks in his mind, if I can get ahead of Herron and then push him to a mistake, then I'm going to get that. The problem is that Herron is smart enough and good enough. He's not going to be susceptible to that mistake, especially if Josh now understands, the number 2, that he does have a 5-second cushion to the rider behind him. Yeah, and it's one of those things where when you see this kind of stuff going on, and you see Herron pulled out a little bit that lap on Cam Peterson. So maybe Cam Peterson has in fact got the message. We'll see if he gets close enough and starts throwing shots at Herron. That means he doesn't know. And look at SDK's pace behind. SDK had pace in this race, Greg, as he's continued to kind of close on these guys. That last lap by, he closed half a second on Cam Peterson. So, when you look back and you see what's happening here, Sean Dillon Kelly and Cam Peterson are actually battling for position. So they are both in 3rd and 4th place right now. But if SDK was able to catch Cam Peterson, he would in fact be 3rd in this race. Because they both have the same time penalty of 5 seconds. But then Sean Dillon Kelly, if he caught Josh Herron, would have to go past him by 5 seconds. Yeah, but there's so many crazy scenarios because if Cam Peterson knows that he's got to slow down and he can't get by, he might be getting Sean Dillon Kelly back in. I'm going to throw one other scenario at you, which is if you're, you're the Attack Performance Progressive Yamaha team, and you're saying, hey, look, we looked at the footage, we don't think that our rider had a jump start, then you could like protest it after the fact if that's a possibility. So the team is probably saying to Cameron Peterson, just race as hard and fast as you can. We'll sort this out after the race. Great little moment there as you see Alex Orango pulled over for the leaders. The owner, or the boss, I guess you could say maybe, of that team, that top pro team, egging his rider Sean Dillon Kelly on. He saw Beaubier go by, Herron go by, Cam Peterson go by, and he sees STK go by.
So Alex Arango moved out of the way very nicely there. By the way, he's had a really solid weekend himself. Back in 17th at the moment, but he had a nice run in Stock 1000 earlier.
So the EasyHealthPlans.com Top Pro Racing teammates getting a little cheering. Race on the actual racetrack itself, pretty cool. So here's a look at the live championship standings right now.
How weird is this, though? Gagne was 1 point back going in.
Yep.
He's having kind of, unfortunately, he's not where he wants to be up front. And if the race ended now, he'd still only be 1 point back. But Josh Herrin, I think when we were at the Ridge, I had made mention that he is kind of the guy for me that I think could be trouble for everybody else. And he's doing what he has to do as far as that championship goes. This guy, very seasoned, very talented. He's won Superbike championships. He's won Supersport championships. We've seen him win a ton of races. And for Herrin, he's got to just got to keep the ship on the island the way he's doing right now. Get this 20 points and get out of here.
Yeah, and Josh is mature enough and smart enough to know that you don't have to win every battle to win the war. And even though Cameron Beaubier is 4 seconds up the road, on days like today, you got to take what you get. As we still have another Steel Commander Superbike race, and yeah, you can see he's pointing it out like, hey, look, you have a 5.6 second lead.
And you got to wonder too, does Cam Peterson see that? Because I know as a rider, I used to see other people's pit boards myself and look at it. And if Cam Peterson sees Herrin's board, which he very well could have, and sees plus 5.6 seconds, wait a minute, maybe they got me for that jump start. And they could have told them at the line or whatever that maybe there was a jump start for those riders as well. So that's why Cam P, a little bit of a gap there between him and Herrin with 2 to go. Beaubier up front, 3.4 second lead. He did a 25.2 that last time by. Might have been a little bit back markers and stuff. You see him up the road just there, Greg, as he tipped into turn 6 ahead of the 2 riders in 2nd and 3rd. And there's STK in 4th. Here's JD Beach making a long walk back.
They'll get to do it again tomorrow with a lap and a half to go here. The Steel Commander Superbike class. That was a really fast crash too, and it looks like JD is okay. The bike took a couple tumbles, so the team's got some work to do for tomorrow, but he'll be all right. So back to the battle for legitimately 2nd place, kind of. So Josh Herrin, Cameron Peterson.
Just that thing snapping around on him there on the exit of turn 9. This guy's going to see the white flag as he makes his way through turn 11. Cam Beaubier should see that white flag out on his rider's left. There it is.
The white flag out. 1 lap to go for Cameron Beaubier. 2.4 seconds is the lead. And of course for Cameron Beaubier, Jason, I'm sure he's going to enjoy this in front of his home crowd. But part of me also thinks that he's just waiting for this to be over as we continue to look at that right foot with that heel. This might be quite a painful win for Cameron Beaubier. But he told me that since the Ridge, that week and a half that we've had since the Ridge, that the injury he has exponentially gotten better. And Hannah told us that obviously he's not using the cane anymore, that he's just walking around with a limp.
But when you get out and you work the heel the way he did at the Ridge, okay? The thing is he went up there to try to get points and unfortunately didn't get any in the first race up there because of the weather conditions we had. He was on slicks, should have been on range. These guys have closed it way down, 2.4 seconds now. They were a full second quicker that time by than was Cam Beaubier. But Greg, after you work your ankle or work your heel the way he did, it takes a few days for it to kind of feel better, but then the healing actually seems like it improved, and that's exactly what he felt. As you can see, he has just completely managed this gap back to Herrin.
Oh, and Herrin now is going like, wait a second, can I get him, can I get him? But Josh Herrin knows and can control the bike in a way. So the final corner for Cameron Beaubier onto the front straightaway for the final lap of Steel Commander Superbike race number 1. And to the checkered flag and wheel in the air for Cameron Beaubier. What a win in front of his home crowd. 2nd place will go to Josh Herrin. 3rd place to Cameron Peterson. On a great comeback ride for him. He'll be 5.9 seconds back. Sean Dillon Kelly with his 5-second penalty in 4th. And Jake Gagne holds off Loris Baz for 5th place. And here come the Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki team. Number 34 is Xavi Flores, just ahead of Brandon Posh. And I would say for Xavi Flores, the kitchen sink they threw at that GSXR 1000 definitely helped. Much better finish result and times that he's been able to do than his qualifying effort. But congratulations across the board from fellow BMW riders. Left part of your screen, Cameron Beaubier's lap progression. Fastest lap of the race on lap number 3 goes to Beaubier, a 1:23.410. And then you can see that Beaubier settled into those low 124s to control the pace. And at the end of the day, on a nice, relaxing last lap ride.
Yeah.
For the Tyler Cycles BMW rider, Cameron Beaubier, his margin to victory is 1.1 seconds. And when we get back to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, we'll hear from Cameron Beaubier about this victory.
Steel Commander Superbike coverage is brought to you by Steel Commander Corps, a leading steel building manufacturer offering expertise, innovation, and a dedication to quality. And by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series.
Continuing coverage here from WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. You watch Cameron Beaubier on this cool down lap, making it 3 in a row here at this iconic facility, Roger.
Yeah, Cameron's just really tough here. He's got the place figured out, and not only that, he's just a heck of a rider. This is why he came back so early to get himself back in that title fight. See, Bobby Fong made a mistake. Cam Beaubier, he slowed down there toward the end of the race, but you have to think he was just managing his pit board, probably thinking about tomorrow already, give that ankle a little bit of a break those last couple laps, but just a phenomenal ride, able to get up in his rhythm really quick, and just tough to beat.
There at the end of that coverage of the race, we saw the lap progression chart for Cameron Beaubier. Ultimately, it was that opening round of laps that he was able to put together that put himself ahead of the rest of the field today.
Yeah, he was able to just get out to about a 2-second lead, and then pretty quickly, then he just gradually grew at a couple tenths a lap. So, you know, just a great ride. Great ride by Josh Herron, too. He didn't have the pace to go with Cam Beaubier today, but he took those 20 points. And he says earlier today, whenever Joe was talking to him there in the lunch break, he's in it for the long haul. And days like today, second place, take those 20 points and move on.
For Josh Herron, that podium that he was able to win today is 6th of the season. You pair that with the 2 wins, and in terms of championship points, being here for the long haul, he's now taken over the lead of the Steel Commander Superbike category.
Yeah, and we've said it all year that Josh was working his way toward the top, and he has, and now he has the points lead for rides like today, doing what he has to do, having those good results, and you know, kind of picking up the pieces, but winning. Josh has been on the podium. We did the podium count earlier today, and it's just been insane how many podiums he's had throughout the year.
Jake Gagne, another solid result for him, not physically where he wants to be, saying that in terms of weak links, he feels like it's him at the moment. He's riding the best that he can, and he's just able to salvage consistently points after points, another result inside of the top 5 today.
I mean, really, it's mind-blowing that Gagne still personally into this championship, not because of what's happening, his 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th each weekend, and he just doesn't crash. He just picks up those points, and then all the other riders are crashing or, you know, having a mistake in the wet, able to close up the big points. It's just what he's doing. It's just crazy to think that he's still in the title fight, but he is.
Cameron Peterson, you see their helmet off now, also still very much in the title fight. He's had 3 wins so far this season, 8 podium finishes when you count the 1 for today. Celebration time for Steel Commander Superbike. We're gonna go back to Greg, Jason, and Hannah.
Well, to say that Cameron Beaubier's got a lot of family and friends here at a racetrack that's, I don't know, an hour from his house is an understatement. So they get to celebrate, as well as his team, for a Steel Commander Superbike Race 1 victory. So it's Cameron Beaubier who takes the win over Josh Herron by 1.1. Cameron Peterson right there, but it's 7 seconds. Let's get right down to Hannah with our winner.
For Cameron Beaubier, giving a big wave. His family and fans are awfully loud out here. Cam, can you even put into words how it feels to have such a dominant comeback after this injury?
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't expecting to run away with that. I know how much pace these guys have had. You know, Sean, Bob, Herron, Cam P, they've been riding really good all weekend, so I was pretty surprised to see my gray cap growing at the beginning, but when it was, I just had to keep my head down. It's a pretty long race. Just I haven't been able to keep up on my training like I would like to and stuff like that. But I'm so happy. Besides that, just having my heel, I'm able to ride and push the bike like I know how to ride, and it's way different than bridge. So yeah, shout out to Dr. Brian for fixing me up. Shout out to all the fans that are coming out, my amazing family and friends for rooting me on this weekend, and Bell Alpine Stars and Manabelle for keeping me safe, and the whole Tyler's crew. They're been amazing.
Great day for Cameron Beaubier at his home track, guys.
It certainly is, and boy, you love to see an athlete who's hurt come back that strong. And of course, there's the Cameron Beaubier crew. Let's get right back down to Hannah with our second place finisher.
Second place today goes to Josh Herron. Josh, you had Cameron Peterson keeping you honest all race long. What was your awareness of the penalty situation, if at all?
Yeah, I didn't know. I just, all I knew is that, you know, I was, just in case Cam's heel got bothering him, I wanted to make sure I was pushing as hard as I could. I thought Cam might have had a penalty because I saw a couple of the guys jump to start. But I just kept pushing as hard as I could the whole time. Cam rode an awesome race, but I just got to give it up to my my entire Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati team. My V4R is amazing, and I got to do better. So thank you to everybody for coming out. Thank you to the team, and I'm happy I haven't had my kid at the race the last couple rounds, and it's yeah, exciting for me. So just looking forward to tomorrow.
Well, it seems like your son Griffin has brought you some good luck as you are now leading the championship point standings.
Yeah, and that's it for Josh Herron. Look, man, the long game is the game, and he knows how to play that game. Don't forget, back in 2013, he hung in there all season long and was able to win that Superbike championship. Back down to Hannah.
Cam Peterson rounding out your podium, and Cam, with that jump start penalty, what was your awareness of the situation? I know the team tried to communicate your position on the track to you. How much were you willing to risk if you were aware?
Yeah, I kind of knew straight away as soon as I left the light. I knew I jump started. You know, they held the red light for a really long time, and SDK started creeping right next to me, and I kind of, you know, messed up and going off of when he moved. But, you know, great race. Cam, I tried to go with him in the beginning, but his pace was a little bit too strong for me. And then, yeah, me and Josh had a nice little battle the whole race. And, you know, I knew the situation, what was going on. So even if I did get him, I knew it wouldn't have changed anything on the podium. And had a few big moments at the end then. I was like, man, let's just bring this thing home, good points, and we'll go get it tomorrow.
Solid third place finish for Cameron Peterson, guys.
Yeah, outstanding race strategy and great awareness of all the riders, obviously, on the racetrack. As Cameron Beaubier gets to celebrate with his family and friends, Steel Commander Superbike race number 1, our coverage will continue. Wait a second, is that a Beaubier and a Herron high-fiving?
The next generation of young riders down there watching their dads do work today. The children of Cameron Beaubier and Josh Herron, certainly welcome sight to see here. But looking back at some history here, Roger, we are right on the heels of something here. So Cameron Beaubier with that win today, it was his 63rd win in the Steel Commander Superbike category as a 5-time champion of the class. But you look at his all-time AMA wins, that puts him at 84. He's third on the list right now behind Miguel Duhamel with 86.
Yeah, he's climbing the ranks, and he keeps going the way he's going. And just think about if the injury, if he didn't have that, he could maybe get that record this year. If he wants to win that title, he's going to need to break that record because he's going to need all those points.
Well, we still have 8 races remaining in this 2024 Steel Commander Superbike Championship season, so there's certainly time for Cameron Beaubier to continue moving up, etch his name even deeper into the history books here. The words that the competitors use here at the podium, I'm so enamored by what they're able to put out there, and the way that they're able to think ahead to tomorrow and the things that they're able to process just coming off of a 20-lap race. How do they do that?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's Miguel Duhamel giving Cam Beaubier that trophy, and that's who Cam is chasing. But you're always thinking about tomorrow right away because it's so fresh. As soon as you get off the bike, you're thinking, you're wanting to tell your crew right away where you were struggling and where you could get better. And it's just, if you do it right away, it's just the riders just know that everybody else is going to improve. Like, you know, you hear riders talking about, I have to be better, or we have to be better, and you know, and it just starts right away. And that's just the competitiveness in these guys. Even though they're on the podium tomorrow, they might enjoy it a little bit more of it right now. They're already thinking about race 2 tomorrow.
as the riders now make their way off of the stage. Some of them will stick around, take some extra pictures with their family, with the team, everybody that's over there celebrating. This is a great behind-the-scenes look of what every ticket that you have for a MotoAmerica race gets you. You can walk right up there to the yellow Dunlop barriers and go and watch this unfold. You can shake hands with the riders. It's really a great opportunity for road racing fans.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of competitors give fans a trophy up there, some young fans, hats, knee pucks. So not only do you get to see the riders up close, feel the emotion of when they come in and the win with the team. You can get some trophies sometimes as well.
There is our race winner. Big congratulations to him. And even watching him walk and make his way through here. Just a couple of weeks ago when we were at the Ridge, we saw Cameron Beaubier using that cane, not using that here this weekend. That progression is getting back to 100% health just continues for him. And there it is, that Cameron Beaubier just handing off that race-winning trophy to a young fan here at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. The high five would have been enough for a lot of people, but that little boy will now be a Cameron Beaubier fan for life. And these three riders will now make their way over to the post-race press conference. That will be streamed live on the social channels for MotoAmerica. We'll go ahead and send it back over to Greg and Jason.
Steel Commander Superbike coverage is brought to you by Steel Commander Corps, a leading steel building manufacturer offering expertise, innovation, and a dedication to quality. And by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series.
Race one unfolded this way. You can see right off the bat that a couple of the front row riders jumped it.
What was crazy is we saw the SDK mine it, but I didn't see Cam Peterson until we saw the replay. So both those guys were docked. It was a really interesting race as far as that goes, watching the ebb and flow as you see SDK making up ground that he had lost at the start. Beaubier took off at the front. Cam Peterson was trying to chase him. Heron made this move into turn 3. This is something that these two would do back and forth, as you see Cam Peterson here up underneath in turn 11. He'd get it turned back up underneath him. He went back by Heron in 2, got it turned back up underneath him, and there's part of this story. Our points leader coming in, Bobby Fong, crashes in turn 3, picks a bike up, but was not able to finish. Cam Beaubier, Greg, just gets a chunk of points as 25 delivered to the number 6, Cam Beaubier. Heron second, Cam Peterson third.
What a day at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca for Steel Commander Superbike race number 1. And when we get back, as Cameron Beaubier finds a fan and gives him the trophy, we're going to take a look at those championship point standings.
Returning live here to WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. It is time now to get ready for the mission. King of the Baggers, race number 11 in their 18-race championship season. You see Corey West there on the racetrack, Roger.
Yeah, we seen Corey have some issues this morning. That second qualifier wasn't able to take part, so not sure if still having a problem, but looks like he got back up and got going. And Kyle Wyman here on the 33. This is the guy that everybody has been chasing all year long.
Been chasing him last year as well, and it wasn't always pretty for Kyle Wyman. Take a look at this last lap.
Yeah, last lap last year. This was a battle between him and Tyler O'Hara from the corkscrew all the way down the last half of the race. But into the last corner, Tyler O'Hara made a mistake. So did Kyle Wyman. Both of them crashed 2 separate incidents, and was able to give Hayden Gillum the win, and his teammate James Rispoli ended up second.
James Rispoli is now teammates with Kyle Wyman. He's moved over to the Harley-Davidson, the factory team, riding the number 43. So Kyle Wyman, his new teammate, James Rispoli, the two of them, they've been quick all weekend, but Kyle Wyman has had a pace of his own.
He's had a strong pace, and I think you got a preview today of the challenge of what the riders' plans are with him. They were super aggressive if they even got close to him because they know the pace that he has. They do not want Kyle to get out in front and get into his rhythm. So early on in this race, he's going to be fast, he's going to be defensive, and he's not going to try to let those guys get close enough to take those shots, because that's their only chance. And he knows it, and you know, when Kyle knows that's the way they have to race him, just the speed he's had this weekend.
If you weren't with us earlier today in our coverage, right at the end of the the Mission King of the Baggers qualifying. There was the Mission King of the Baggers challenge race. It was a 3-lap shootout that Roger just referenced, and Kyle Wyman was able to take the check home, $5,000 being awarded with the support of Mission Food. It was a great money-paying event for him, but he said he didn't feel like he had earned it out on the racetrack.
Yeah, well, a couple guys, Hayden Gillum crashed out and in the last corner, last lap. Troy Hurtfoss actually got second on track, but he had a jump start penalty. So really, Kyle, as a rider, knows that he, even though he got the win, that he got third place that race. And you could just tell in his interview after that win that he wasn't really, he was happy to, like he said, get the coin in his pocket, but not really happy with how the race went.
Well, that was only a 3-lap challenge, that shootout. The race today is going to be a 9-lap planned challenge for these 13 competitors in the Mission King of the Baggers. But before we get into any more storylines with them, let's go ahead and go back to Greg and Jason to finish up Superbikes.
All right, so we're back at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca after Steel Commander Superbike race number 1. It was marred with some crashes, and as you saw, it was time penalties. So what are the standings as of right now? Well, let's take a look, JP. So we have Josh Herron, who has a 1-point advantage over Jake Gagne, who continues to hang in there. His teammate Cameron Peterson only 2-point back. And for Bobby Fong, he only is 11 points back after crashing.
Nothing there, Baz, but the guy they got to worry about, there's Cam Beaubier, 41 points back with a ton of points on the table. And you can look at the schedule that we've got coming. We got one more race here, obviously, tomorrow at Laguna Seca, Greg. Then we get to go to one of our favorite places that's back on the calendar, Mid-Ohio. They're in Lexington, Ohio. Everybody's looking forward to that. Circuit of the Americas, and then Jersey. Yeah, and we have 3 Steel Commander Superbike races at Circuit of the America, so still plenty of racing going on. But if you look at it, man, these tracks, they're going to bode well for a lot of racers out there, including Josh Herron and that Ducati Panigale. He's got some really good surfaces coming up. Well, that'll do it for us for WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca Steel Commander Superbike race number 1. Boy, this championship is as close as you like it, so we hope you join us for race number 2. You see the time at the bottom of your screen, 6 p.m. East, 3 p.m. Pacific. For Hannah and Jason Upgrade, thanks so much for watching MotoAmerica's Steel Commander Superbike. We'll see you tomorrow.